So what I'm working on now is putting together my collar. The collar has two pieces. It has an upper and under collar. So, well, collar and a collar band. So this is the collar band. You might recognize it as a mandarin. It would be a mandarin collar. It went around your neck like that. And so I am actually working on the top part that will kind of fold around your neck. See if I could do this with it. Fold around your neck and end with your 2 points. So this is the pattern, and what I started doing was cutting off my seam allowance because, so this is interfacing, and I don't want the interfacing to go all the way to the edges because that just adds bulk to the edges of your collar, and I like to get them very flat. So what I do is I cut off what I don't need, and I make a separate collar, separate pattern for my collar. So this is going to be the underside of my collar. And it's very flimsy fabric. So I like to take my pattern piece and make sure that everything gets lined up according to the pattern, because you don't want it to lay all wonky. The heavier the fabric means you don't have to do this. There. So now that the pattern is right, I'm going to take my interfacing and I'm going to line it up right on the bottom. There it goes. Oh. Uh-oh. Moves you a little bit. Oh, that'll work for me. And I cover it up. And I'm just going to take a couple minutes and get this. There's glue on the interfacing, and it allows the interfacing to stick onto your main fabric, and then you have some sturdiness and some body to your fabric. And when you're wearing your collar, it's not going to crumble. See that? Here. So let me lay out this piece. And I don't focus on getting the interfacing on perfectly because it's just added to the collar for support. Sometimes I use my, I got a steam press for my collar, but I don't have a lot of pieces to press, so I'm just using this iron here. It's called a gravity feed iron. So it has a water tube that is attached to it, and the water tube hangs up in the ceiling, and what it does is the iron is really heavy, so you get a nice press. And anytime I want steam, and I can also steam it in an upright position because it has a constant water supply. Ooh. You don't want to get burnt by that. Okay. So then I'm going to take my fabric for my collar, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch my 2 pieces together, right sides together. Okay, so I am working on the collar to my top, and my collar consists of 2 pieces. It has a cup collar, and then it has the collar band. The collar band, it might look familiar to you as a mandarin collar that would go along your shirt, like such. This is actually going to be the inside. And this is interfaced because this fabric is very well, interface all your collars. Then you fold this under because this is going to be the inside. This goes on the inside around your neck like such. And then you have your top piece. And so the top piece, so this is the pattern for the top of your collar. And if you can use your imagination, you will see, I'll show you how this is the collar. Goes around your neck. And then you have your points right there. Probably didn't do a good job, but you'll see later. So with my collar pieces, so as not to add bulk to my edges, I take my collar, let me turn this around here, and I create another pattern where I cut off all my seam allowance, and then I use this pattern for my interfacing, and that is what's on this side of the collar is the interfacing. So now what I'm going to do in my creative print shirt is I'm going to take my two pieces. So I'm going to do my top collar. I'm going to go ahead and sew these together, and I'll show you what it looks like. Oh, let's wait for it to stop shaking. Okay, so my collar is sewn together. Just going to press it. And this right here is a point turner. And what I do is I take my collar and I use it to get my corners to pop out. And there we go. Now what I like to do is I like to press my seam open. It's Taylor's block. I'm going to go ahead and open my seam. I'm just going to press this open. There we go. Okay. And it gives me a good surface, a good, not surface, but a good edge to just, oh, wrong side. This is my top side. Here we go. So if you're not familiar with sewing, in sewing there's pressing and then there's ironing. This is ironing and this is pressing. I'm going to give it some seam. And then my block seals the steam inside. It sucks up all the moisture. It gives me a firm collar. So now I'm going to edge stitch this collar all the way around. So if you look at your shirts, most shirts, they'll have a edge, they'll have a stitch right around the edge. And that's called edge stitching. So here's my collar. I'll be back. And I'm back. So you can't see the edge stitching on this side because it's matching the fabric, but you could probably see it right there. So it went all the way around. So now I got to put my collar together. So I'm going to go ahead and just iron that real quick. So this is, that piece goes there. This piece goes over here. And I am making, see if, you know what, I did not mark my notches. Notches are important. Let's turn that around. That's why you always keep your pattern pieces out. This will just tell me where I gotta put my stuff together. Where's the 5/8? 5/8. It's supposed to be two notches, but I know where they are. Ugh, and I lost them already. Oh, there it goes. This one right here and one right there. So interfacing, let's see, where's it at? Notch, notch. Pin that. Notch. Where's my notch at? Right there. Notch, notch. And that. Now I'm just gonna go all the way to the edge here. 1 and 2. And let's do this side. One and 2. Okay. Now we put on the other piece. No, I'm gonna get ready to put it. Oh, there we go. I must put it on wrong. That would not have been good. It goes here. Got a notch right here. Okay. I got my other notch right there. Okay. So there's the collar. So now I am going to, because this folds down like that, I am going to sew my seam all the way around the edge, just like that. So actually what I'm going to do is, I saw something different. I want to try it. So I got to turn my pins. So this is kind of like where I can tend to get myself in trouble, because there's following the directions. And, you know, I have, the only thing vested in this project is time. Because the fabric, I am reusing a dress that I have picked up. I didn't like the dress, but I like the fabric. So I'm going to actually fold this down. Get my ruler. Here's my ruler. Alright, it's like a 1 inch. So that's what I'm gonna do all the way around here. Usually it's a 5/8 of an allowance, but I seen someone that I follow on YouTube. I seen them make their seam allowance a lot bigger, and then they just sewed right along the line, and oops, and the collar went on beautifully. And I said, oh, I want to try that. So now I'm going to try it, because sometimes I do have problems getting my collar on perfectly. This is a seam gauge. I just set the mark on the ruler, and then it gives me that. Make sure I have the same measurement all the way across. There. Okay. Hey. All right. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to sew right next to this line. Fingers crossed. Whew. Okay. So I ran out of thread over there. Change out. Okay. All right, so put my stuff back. Here is the collar. I'm going to go ahead and trim it. I make a habit of always keeping my hand underneath to make sure that you do not cut what you don't want to cut. Okay, here we go. I'm going to turn, you know what, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press my collar down. All this gets sandwiched inside. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Yep. Okay. Bring these edges out. So I don't have it all the way out. There. There's that side. There's that side. I'm gonna give that some steam. There we go. You know what? It wasn't. I know what the pressing was. It wasn't to press that under. Okay. I know what I did. But I hope this will still work. So let me get my top. And I'm going to pin. This is the back. Starting at one corner of the shirt. go to the other end of the shirt. Okay. No, I could take this off. Because you're probably like, what am I looking at? I pin my shirt together so that I can make sure my front is even. One more pin. All right. So this is the shirt. There we go. And I'm putting the collar on. And I have these marks. Okay. There. Now the collar is attached, so I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to stitch it on. Need more pins. There we go. All right. Okay. So I'm back. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on the outside. I need to get this. Oh, I see. I got a pucker right here. I have to go back to the machine and fix that. Let me check around here. Looks okay. Yes, I have a pucker right here. See that? It's a little, that's like a little pleat. So what happened is when I was sewing, I don't know if you can see, a piece of the inside just folded on top of itself. So what I do is take my seam ripper and I pop those stitches. And then I see if I can pop a little bit more stitches. And I'll smooth that out to get rid of that pucker under there. All right, I'll be back. All right, 10 hours later. I'm just playing. So I got it. I got my collar attached. And so now I'm folding the inside of the band. I am pinning it down. Pinching myself along the way. So this is the collar. Gotta account for the curve of my neck, my shoulders. Push everything under there. because then I hand stitch this close. A lot of people machine stitch this close. I like the hand stitch. It just looks better. So there we go. So that is, let me hold this out. I don't have my sleeves on yet. So here's the collar. When it's folded over. And then on the inside, peekaboo. Some safari animals in the under part of the collar, which is not seen, but still a little peekaboo. We'll call that. And that is the collar for my shirt. Thanks for watching.